Thank you for joining us for another episode of Crypto After Dark. It is dark outside, and it is time for Crypto After Dark. I'm here with my good friend, college friend, and now lifelong friend, Tom Nelson. Tom, it's so good to see you, and I'd say it's like so good to see you after a long time, but you know, you've just got the privilege of seeing you last weekend in Charlotte. So, you know, thanks for visiting and thanks for joining the show today.
Thank you for having me on, Brian. Last weekend we could have used the "it's been too long" line, but only a week out. I don't know if we can necessarily use that line, but it's great to see you. It's definitely great to see you in Charlotte. I appreciate you having me on, and excited to have some pretty candid conversations.
Yeah, man, absolutely. Yeah, so with that being said, on tonight's show, I'm going to start by looking at a few different charts and just breezing over coin market cap as we always do. I know we didn't do a lunch hour show today, so just want to make sure we're covering all of the market there and just checking out what's going on. And then we will go into, talk about Tommy's background a little bit more and his, investment background, some of the things he's been interested in, and then sort of, how he accepted, crypto himself, right? I think we all go through stages of denial and acceptance on everything in life, as far as like learning new things and accepting certain things. But with that being said, I'm just going to dive into a couple of things I wanted to show real quick for tonight's show. So this is the total crypto market cap chart here. So technical levels are what they are. You don't have to always honor them, but some of the patterns that it's been forming here from its inception of this data in 2014 upwards to where we are and beyond. Yeah, the bulls are obviously hoping for extension here. I think the velocity and the sheer ROI from the last bull run hasn't really been met yet as it relates to surpassing previous all-time highs. If you look at what happened from just from this data perspective, I can't remember where the 2013 high was, and maybe it was somewhere up here, but regardless, lots of momentum here, and in comparison, we've got maybe some room to run, so could go up or down, but either way, hopefully that the market cap for the bulls keeps going towards that 3 trillion mark. Going over to Bitcoin really quick, this chart's a little bit crowded right now, but I wanted to show some of the different levels into our group chat the other day, so I had this going here, but it has this little downward channel happening right now. But this green support line, if you catch this one, is actually pulling in all the way from the March 2020 lows down here. So this is coronavirus lows and seeing a lot of confluence all the way back up. So to me, some of these levels are very make or break around this 40,000 region. Going back down here doesn't really seem, it seems very M's are not that great for it's great if it was upside down, but it's not good in this perspective here. So I'd like to see these levels hold if we're going to get any momentum into early of next year. And I know there's been a lot of talk about Ethereum. Raoul Paul's call is not going great right now. I think he started talking about that last week, but he said that he's expecting Ethereum to go up to 10 or 20,000 into next year. I draw both of these lines to say one or two things are going to happen. But today Ethereum's at 4,100, and this is the long-term Ethereum channel. Again, technicals are not for everyone. Some pass or fail, true or false, whatever you think. But from that perspective, this is some of the levels it's been respecting, and up here, this is just a parallel of what's been happening down here. So I think everyone expects, as long as Ethereum's gas fees can get under control, I think everyone expects Ethereum to continue to rise, over the course of the crypto's life cycle, but that's to be determined as well. So with that being said, I'll pull up the crypto fear and greed index here really quickly before we get into the next part here. Back down to 24 tonight, so this was just updated a couple hours ago, and we're back into extreme fear. Typically when we're in fear cycles, it's a good time to buy. That's not financial advice, and nothing on this show is ever financial advice, but certainly I think when you're looking for times to buy, you're looking for bloodier situations, and when it's greedy, you're looking to probably shave some profit. So with that being said, I'm gonna, shift gears back over to Tom now. So Tom, I guess to start like our conversation tonight and to segue into it, why don't you give us like some background on like, what your what's the first thing you started investing in? I think for some people it could have been, trading cards or, whatever that is, like what really keened your first interest, and then, what really, I guess you can kind of segue that into like your first thoughts about crypto and where we'll kind of go from there.
Yeah. I mean, I think my first investments were coming out of undergrad. I went to work for Pepsi, and I thought it was the 401k route. It was, you sock away as much money as you can in your 401k, and you take advantage of stock purchase programs and things like that. And, 30 years later, you're a millionaire, and you can retire and all that good stuff. And I mean, I think what a lot of us find out is that 401k, you start reading more, you start educating yourself, and you start realizing there's a lot of fees that aren't necessarily written out. I'm not saying that 401ks aren't a decent vehicle. I mean, if someone's, company, and not financial advice by any means, but I mean, if you have a match or something along those lines that vests instantly, that's free money. So I would say, if you have an employer that's going to, match 4 or 5%, whatever it is, take advantage of that for sure. But I just realized that, I'm not trying to work until I'm 60, 65, working, whatever 50, 60, 70-hour weeks, that we all do as we're trying to climb the corporate ladder. You miss just so much of, if you want to have a family, if you want to, you're going to miss soccer games and stuff like that. So I shifted my focus when I left Pepsi to real estate, and I flipped 3 houses from 2016 to 2018. Obviously, I did it so well that you see me on HGTV, but did all right. I did all right. We made some decent money. More of the lessons that we're learning, just the power that real estate has, and more on the buy and hold side of real estate. So right now, I have a couple offers out for some live-in house hacks that I'd like to be able to rehab as I live in them, and then go back and refinance and pull not only my cash that I put into it, but pull out more. Obviously, I do foresee appreciation. So that's some of my real estate investing. But as far as the crypto side of things, I'll be honest, the company slash we'll call them a financial agent, who was helping me set up my 401k and some amazingly garbage mutual funds that I was in. I asked her about Bitcoin back in 2014. I was like, I had no idea what Bitcoin was. It was just a shiny new object. And I was like, man, like, I don't know. It sounds like, it just sounded cool. Like, I knew nothing about Bitcoin. I knew nothing about crypto or blockchain or anything like that. But I asked her, I was like, well, what if I got like $500 that, like, what if I just do it in there? She's like, don't do it. It's a scam. So I'm like, well, you have the CFA next to your name, so I'm going to listen to you. Granted, I wasn't investing for the right purposes. I was investing as like, oh shit, let me get rich quick. And hindsight being 2020, it would have been all right if I got in at 2014 with $500. I'd be sitting pretty right now.
This would be your show.
What's that?
This would be your show.
I mean, again, man, it was, I wouldn't have been investing for the right purposes. And I'd say that after I got told that, I didn't really approach it until coming out of, I went back to grad school in 2018, and got my master's in my master's of sports administration from Ohio University. And obviously when you're a grad student, money's always strapped, but, I was able to start researching some things, and, just kind of, Bitcoin being a staple, and you have people that I really respect, like a Robert Kiyosaki, talking about Bitcoin being the inflation hedge that gold is right now. He says that Bitcoin will become that hedge. And he was saying that back in, 2018 when I first got in there. So I was just taking those notes, kind of like starting to educate myself, starting to see the markets and things along those lines. Obviously came out of grad school in May of 2020 at the, really the beginning of coronavirus. So my job offers got smoked. So I went and picked up an Amazon delivery route, and did that 6-7 days a week if my boss would let me run, and I just would set a reminder for myself that wasn't making much money. I was making $16 an hour, but every Wednesday I would just throw $10 into Bitcoin, um, in my wallet, and just like set that dollar cost averaging, right? DAC. We always, investors, we talk about that. That always, I don't try and time the market. I'm not smart enough to do that. I just, even as you're going over those charts, I mean, I can read the data, but like for me, like I'm like, when you talk about, I look more at like the fear, the greed and fear, fear index, where it's like, all right, hey, like, you know what? If people are getting greedy, like you said, like Warren Buffett said, when people are greedy, that's when you need to be fearful. And when people are fearful, that's when you need to be greedy. So that's kind of what I base my investments on when it comes to crypto. So I mean, I thought it was a scam. Just when you're 24, 25, and like you have somebody like that tell you that something's a scam, you're like, all right, well, you probably know what you're talking about. But then you like realize that a lot of these old minds just don't understand the power, the power that blockchain is, and the power that smart contracts are going to have, and how things are going to be written on that contract, and how people don't trust the Fed and don't trust the Treasury to be doing what's best for the American people. So just to take that control back a little bit is something that I'm very interested in. So for me, I mean, my portfolio is Bitcoin, Ethereum. Obviously, a lot of the DeFi stuff is potentially is written on Ethereum, and continue to be written on Ethereum. Excuse me. And then also just around that kind of DeFi space, because you have these NFTs, you have the metaverse, you have all these things, Web 3.0 and things along those lines. So Cardano, Solana, I mean, things like that, just to kind of play in that space where maybe it won't be the major player like Ethereum is, but you never know. I mean, it's like you said, AOL came along, and that was dial up, and then all of a sudden you had broadband come up and crush it, right? Same kind of realm of things, but just a newer technology just superseded an older one. So you never know what can happen. So I'm just trying to basically play the odds with that and give myself an opportunity to be just in the space itself, because I believe in that space a lot. I mean, things like XRP, thanks to you, and XLM, again, because of you. And I guess, a reason, so as far as like XRP, you look at the banking, just the partners in that, just these mega international conglomerate banks. I know they're, in litigation right now, but like, let's be honest, those kinds of banks, they're not going to let something like this fail. There's not. They got too much riding on it. Same thing with XLM, built by, Stellar Lumens, built by IBM, Fortune 50 company. They're not in the business of losing money. And then obviously, you brought up a couple, shows ago about, the new, ISO compliance, and that, I mean, having, Ripple, which is XRP, and then also XLM being, 2 of the 5 is huge. I mean, because that's what's going to have to happen with these smart contracts moving forward in the future. So to have those early currencies that are already in that have already basically built themselves into a opportunity to take advantage of that, I think is super powerful. And then I have VeChain as well, just because of some of the partnerships that are unique to that, like BMW is on VeChain, which I think is very powerful. You have Toyota as well. So I mean, I just look at, like you talked about, it's looking at these partnerships, and it's like, all right, these companies that are in on these coins, they're not in it to lose money. I think like probably the biggest risk one that I have is WRX, and you and I had talked about this, but it's
that's the for those watching, that's the Indian crypto exchange.
Yep, yep, it's the native coin for the crypto exchange there. So that's probably my biggest risk. I mean, but again, I don't go like I for me, it's I put in $50 a week. It's 5 here, 5 here, 10 here, 10. So it's very. I mean, and maybe I'm too conservative. I mean, I don't know. I mean, maybe I'll look back and be like, damn, wish you'd thrown in more. But for me, that's just where, my comfort level is. So it's not like you have to throw in. It's not like, back in the day when you were trying to buy, full stocks, right? Like where you're sitting here like, oh my God, I got to stock together, $100 to buy AT&T stock, and I can only buy one at a time. No,
Well,
here it's like,
what about that TikTok reel that's like if you took your $5 Starbucks every day and bought Bitcoin, and it's like and it's like, dang, like what, I had a couple G's, like, so
there you go.
your strategy is I'm happy you're talking about it on the show. It's obviously not advice. You don't need to say that 1,000 times, but
Yes, it's not advice, man.
but it's important for and I have the adoption curves. I just googled adoption curves, right? You can here's a good one actually. Let's look at this one, cracking the code. This is the internet adoption curve. And this is kind of off base here. Like what's down here? This is where AOL in the grocery store is, like down here. Because we're leaving, all of this stuff is on the back end and we're leaving now. And so to be down here and to your point, to I guess to work backwards on your conversation, the partnerships with banks, institutions, and corporations are NyQuil. They help you sleep at night, right? You're not so worried like, oh, well, if I'm down now, I guess I should probably ensure the partnerships have not been crushed and then keep going. Just like you would when you research stocks on your own or anything else. The difference here is that we're not here in the stock market. So you wouldn't just blindly go in and buy, some of the stock in your favorite company all the time. Like you have to worry about its performance. Like for a lot of folks at this stage of the game, like you, like this cycle is not even maybe that exhilarating, right? I think there's a lot of people in this for the long run and are looking to say like, hey, with this model of spending 5 and 10 here when it's red when I open my phone, certainly has been doing well. So and I really appreciate your story. A lot of people don't like to think like this. They'll like, oh, you're just conspiracy theorist or whatever. But a humble way to put it would be if they told your CFA that Bitcoin wasn't a scam, would there be any left at this point? From a scarcity model perspective, and so they're not going to tell us. That's the foundations of Constant Collab, right? And of why we participate together and why we share information, in the ways that we do together, and you being part of that group. It's like, we gotta be our brothers and sisters keeper here as we're at the beginning of this adoption curve. And I told my mom, like, Mom, you need to drop like not to sound like morbid here, but we're all mortal, and I was like, I don't want to be holding cash at the end of this. Like, drop some more in the market, like trust it. She's like, well, my neighbor told me to buy Enron in 2002, so, and I'm just like, well, I can see why your son telling you to buy an ISO standard crypto compliant asset could be challenging because of literally scars. But at the same time, like, I don't fucking care. Like, like, why aren't we participating more, leveraging everything you have and saying, I'm riding this curve? And then I guess the final point I wanted to make on your conversation that I'm thinking of is like, nobody trusts the Fed, and a lot of people don't even really want to trust crypto because they don't know what, who Satoshi even is. But at the same time, we have the CIA recently talking about their involvement with blockchain projects, all of these banks, all these institutions, the Staples Center is gone. We can go on and on. So it's like, I saw this picture the other day, and it's on one hand, it's like the government says crypto's a scam, and on the other hand, it says the government's the second you sell, you're fucked.
Yep.
So which one is it? Well, which one is it? So
I mean, it's what we've talked about, man. Like, how do you create, or how do you, I'm going to use the student loan thing as an example here, and I think you'll follow it here in a second. But the Democrats come out and say that, oh, well, we're going to forgive student loans, right? So they suspend all payments and interest and things along those lines. Well, how do you get somebody to not pay against their loan? You tell them that they're going to be forgiven, right? You plant that seed that, oh, we're going to work towards it. We're going to work towards it. We're going to work towards it. They never had any inkling to even do something like that, right? So they created a situation where you have, what was it, 1.9 trillion or something like that, like of student loan debt that is out there, secure, secured or unsecured. I don't even know what the number is anymore, but they made sure that no one paid that, no one paid against that, right? Because that'd be a 0%. They'd be paying against 0% interest, right? So to correlate that to what you just said, I mean, how do you create a situation where you stop mass amounts of people from buying an asset that cannot be controlled by the government, and thus keeping the control with the government? You create that fear, like you said, and then you ramrod legislation through, behind closed doors, under the guise of a infrastructure bill. Like the fact that you're even trying to put taxation into an infrastructure bill, like you're a piece of shit. Like, let's be honest. Like, that's just what our government is. Constitution is written on 4 pieces of paper. Yet a standard bill now is what, 3,000 pages, 4,000 pages, that I know very few Americans actually want to flip through. Like, I'm probably one of the few freaks that does, just to see what the actual hell they're trying to, pull the wool over
That's my
everyone's
light.
eyes.
That's my light reading before bed.
Yeah, but it puts you right to sleep too until you start seeing some of the shenanigans that they're actually trying to underwrite in there. You're just like, what the actual fuck are we doing?
Yeah.
But I mean, that's what they do. The government just wants to keep that control, man, and that's not a conspiracy theory. I mean, that's just reality. I mean, if you think that the government actually cares about you, I mean, I'm sorry that I'm like blowing up the Santa Claus situation for a little kid. But they don't. So.
Yeah, and they
Um,
certainly want to take all of your as much gain as possible. There's some taxes as possible out of your returns in this market too. So that's why I tend to, that's why my favorite part is partnerships. You can say it's very interesting, these marketing campaigns that are happening based off the Ethereum ledger, essentially, right? Like, hey, we got Floki Inu marketing itself on a TikToker with 800,000 viewers or whatever. Like, okay, so that's just like saying a penny stock in a garage it's like no different than GameStop or AMC. Like, you're waiting for a high volume rift and basically like gambling all the time. And that if you have a good portfolio, right? Like, if you have a good solid crypto portfolio that's 5 or 6 figures, and you want to put, $100, $1,000 into one of those low float, hopefully one day high volume shit coins, and try to like flap us. I mean, people have done it. Like, go for it. But if you're, if so many people ask about those, and I'm just like, let's talk about Visa and MasterCard and like partnerships. Like, here's an article today. Like, of course I didn't bring it up, but I think, oh, here it is. AVAX Labs startups chosen for the MasterCard accelerator. So, AVAX just partnered with FEMA, and now they're partnering with MasterCard. So you're thinking like, yeah, really missed the boat on Avalanche, right? It's all the way up here at $90. It was down here at $2 just in December of last year. But at the same time, like, you're looking at this channel like, dang, if I buy the rumor, sell the news, we're getting lots of Avalanche news. Maybe it keeps dropping, maybe it keeps going up. Who knows? Like, I think the one thing to see to consider here on it from a timing perspective is obviously Bitcoin, continuing, right? But just coming off of this in our conversation here, the best thing that we've to segue or close out that conversation, I guess, is that helping each other find this information and sharing it and being and being resourceful is one of the best things we can do in an environment where every day you turn on the TV or watch the news, it's saying something's a scam, right? You kind of have to read between the lines and go, do that research and find those partnerships and see like, hey, is that resourceful? Is that going to be something that we need in the future? So I don't know, like, if using Shiba Inu for a payment, like a dollar payment, is really something we're going to need in the future. But with all means, maybe the future is going somewhere that I just don't understand. So.
Man, that's kind of a scary thought, but I don't know. I mean, I'd rather play it, at least at least if my, the way I'm putting it to myself and like the way I explain it to like people that just don't, they're like, they don't fuck with crypto. It's like, look, man, like I'm putting my money where Fortune 50 companies are at, international conglomerates are at, international, like, let's be honest, some of those banks and like the Ripple system, like we all know, like some bigger family businesses do their banking and things along those lines. So it's like, let's be honest, like those sets of people are not going to let something fail.
Yeah, so
So
here's a fun list we can go over. So here's this. This is on XRP Arcade World Top 100 Banks, and it's based off total assets. So the first four are in China. Okay, the fifth one's in Japan. Ripple customer. Okay, J.P. Morgan. I don't know. I'm pretty sure they're partnered with something now. I don't know how old this data is. This list is based on 219 global market intelligence reports. So it's 2 years old, and I'm pretty sure there's about 50 ripples on it. But anyway, Mitsubishi here, HSBC in the UK, Bank of America right down the street in Old Charlotte, Credit Agricole, Japan Post Bank. I mean, there used to be that Ripple net map. You couldn't even see Japan. Like, there's going to be Japan on, like, if we just filter by Ripple here, you're going to see a lot of Japan. And then the rankings are over here as well. Barclays, Royal Bank of Canada, UBS, Bank of Montreal, Australia Bank. I'm kind of skipping around here. All across the world, Canada, Spain, Brazil. And what they're going to do is, they're going to set up Ripple's ledger systems to transact international payments between their customers. The prime example here is like if you have a business that's located in two countries and they need to do a business unit transaction between dollars and Canadian dollars, and they have to wait 1 to 3 days, and it's $1 million transaction, and the US dollar loses 1% in value during that time period, that $1 million is only going to be 990,000 worth by the time it gets there. And if they didn't hedge currencies properly, they're going to lose money. And so they have, and these used to be some of my colleagues, but we have these massive treasury functions with hardworking citizens using Bloomberg technology and all this shit to figure out what positioning they should have on global currencies in order to make sure they don't lose money. In fact, they're trading against currencies to make sure they come out positive net on net over the year on transactions. When their banks could just use this technology and trade it in 4 seconds with a very low fee. So, good point on that. I think this is definitely a comfort zone here, knowing they're with ISO. Obviously, the lawsuit is like some of the top FUD I've ever seen. Like, and they're the only really, that SEC is the only really governing body across the globe that really thinks that it's a security. I mean, Bank of America is partnered with them, so. Yeah.
Like I said, I mean, you're looking at that list, man. That's a lot of money. Like I said, some of those banks, man, especially like in Europe and Japan. I mean, they do. That's where a lot of business goes from. I'm not saying unsavory people by any means, but like larger family businesses. And I mean, I think most people know what I'm saying when I say that. Where that money goes through that, they ain't gonna let something like this fail.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't care what the SEC says. I don't care what they want to hold this up as long as they can to flex. And it goes back to our government talk of trying to hold things up while our brilliant government shoves whatever bill they want to try and regulate this in the background. So it's just all background noise to me, man.
100%. Well, with that being said, anything you'd want to close out on, or do you have any goals for this, or like what would you like to do? What would you like to see come out of your investment, or just more on the long game?
Long game for me. I mean, Warren Buffett said, if investing is exciting for you, you're gambling. So I mean, for me, it's just be steady, dollar cost averaging. I mean, some people are much, you're much smarter than me in this space, Brian. So I mean, you're able to play the game a lot better than I am. So I don't try and time the market. I just look at what the market's doing and buy when people are afraid. And like you said, take your profits. Don't be afraid to take your profits in this kind of environment. I think we're taught, okay, hey, you don't sell, like you just hold the stock, you just buy your EFTs, you hold, and like that's fine. Like that's what I'm doing. Like I think that's what a lot of people should do is hold your principal. But when you start to see that, more and more people, jumping into the space, more and more institutions, jumping into space and dumping a ton of money into it, that's when you kind of gotta, all right, like what is my total, what's my net profit at? And pull some of that out just so that I can take that, hold that, either put that into another investment, or like a lot of people do, like you and I do, put it into a wallet, hold it, chill for a second, and then as it kind of ticks back down. And I mean that's the, call it a game. I don't want to call it a game, but that's the game.
Well,
Like
it'll be
don't.
around for a long time. So to your point, if you take your profit, you have money to buy again, and if you don't, then you're just holding the bag, and you don't have money to buy again all the time. So,
Exactly.
yeah, that's a really great way to put it, man.
I appreciate you having me on, Brian. And this is awesome. Thank you so much for putting this on and putting this all together. I think it's definitely helped me. So if it's helped me, man, I know it's definitely helping a bunch of other people too.
Yeah, man, that's great to hear, and I really appreciate your words, and for joining all of our shows and sharing it with the folks that you have as well. Really appreciate that, and with that being said, that's our main goal, right? We're trying to help people. We're not trying to. I'm not trying to make any calls for by any means. If it goes down, it goes down. If it goes up, it goes up. But take your profits along the way and keep looking into projects that have utility. And I think that's the whole point of this game, is making sure we understand this market before it's too late. So thank you again, Tom. Thanks again for coming, and maybe we'll do this again sometime in the next quarter in the future, see what the update is, and go from there. But with that being said, we'll see y'all next time on Crypto After Dark.